Kang Hyun stared at the holographic star map floating in front of him. After 30 years of navigating ships across the galaxy, he had seen thousands of these maps. But this one made no sense. The bright dots of stars and trade routes suddenly stopped at a clear line. Beyond that line, nothing. Just empty black space on the map. "Computer, show me the star charts for Sector 7749 Delta," he said. "No data available for that sector," the ship's computer replied in its calm voice. Hyun frowned. Every space navigator knew about the boundary. It was just a fact of life, like gravity or the speed of light. The galactic maps ended where human space began. No one talked about it much. No one questioned it. It was simply how things were. But today, something felt different. Today, Hyun was curious. He walked across the bridge of his exploration ship, the Starfinder. His crew was busy with their daily tasks. They were heading back to Altarian space after a 3-month survey mission. Nothing unusual had happened. They had mapped some new asteroid fields and checked on a few mining stations. Standard work for an exploration vessel. Dr. Yu Mira looked up from her research station. She was a xenoanthropologist, someone who studied alien cultures and history. Her job was to record any interesting discoveries they made during their travels. She had been quiet for most of the trip, spending her time reading old files and data archives. "Captain Hyun," she said, "can I ask you something about the boundary?" Hyun stopped walking. In all his years of space travel, no one had ever asked him about the boundary. It was just there, like asking about why stars were bright or why space was cold. "What about it?" he asked. Mira stood up and walked over to the star map. She pointed at the empty space beyond the line. "I've been reading through some very old archives, from before the current galactic maps were made. There are references to star systems that should be in this area. Habitable planets, trade routes, even some old communications logs." "That's impossible," Hyun said. "There's nothing there. The maps would show it." "But what if the maps are wrong?" Mira asked quietly. Hyun felt uncomfortable. Questions like this weren't normal. The galactic maps were created by the Council of Worlds. They represented the combined knowledge of hundreds of species across thousands of years. The maps couldn't be wrong. "Dr. Mira, I think you've been reading too many old files," he said. "Those archives might have errors. Space is big. Sometimes early explorers made mistakes about what they found." Mira nodded, but she didn't look convinced. "Maybe you're right, but I found something else. Communication records from about 300 years ago. Ships reporting successful contact with the Celestine Empire. That empire was supposed to be in the area beyond the boundary." "The Celestine Empire?" Hyun had never heard of them. "Exactly. No one remembers them now. But 300 years ago they were mentioned in dozens of reports. A powerful civilization with advanced technology. Then, suddenly, all mentions of them stopped appearing in the records." Hyun was about to respond when the ship's alarm started, beeping. His navigation officer, Lieutenant Bae Kyung, called out from his station. "Captain, we have a problem. The quantum drive is malfunctioning. We're being pulled off course." Hyun rushed to the navigation console. The display showed their ship moving in the wrong direction. Instead of heading toward Altarian space, they were drifting toward the boundary. "How bad is it?" Hyun asked. "The drive is completely offline. We're moving on momentum only. At this rate, we'll cross into human space in about 6 hours." Everyone on the bridge became quiet. Crossing into human space without permission was serious. No one knew exactly what would happen, but it was not something anyone wanted to find out. "Can we repair the drive?" Hyun asked. Engineer Park Dong-hyun shook his head. "Not quickly enough. We need at least 12 hours to fix it properly." Hyun made a decision. "Send a distress signal, explain our situation. Hopefully someone will help us before we cross the boundary." For the next few hours, the crew worked frantically to repair their ship, but it was no use. The quantum drive was completely broken. They watched helplessly as their ship drifted closer and closer to the invisible line that marked human space. "Captain," Lieutenant Kyung said nervously, "we're about to cross the boundary." Hyun looked at the star map. Their ship was just seconds away from entering the forbidden zone. He had heard stories about what happened to ships that went into human space. Some said they were destroyed immediately. Others said they simply disappeared forever. "This is it," he said quietly. The ship crossed the invisible line. For a moment, nothing happened. The stars looked the same. Space felt the same. Hyun began to wonder if all the stories about the boundary were just myths. Then their communication system activated. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Lee Jun of the Human Defense Ship Guardian. We've detected your distress signal. Are you in need of assistance?" The voice was calm and friendly, not threatening at all. Hyun looked around his bridge. His crew seemed just as surprised as he was. Yes," Hyun replied. "This is Captain Kang Hyun of the Altarian ship Starfinder. Our quantum drive has failed. We didn't mean to enter your space." "Understood, Captain Hyun. We're approaching your position now. Don't worry. We'll help you get back to familiar space." On the main screen, a ship appeared. Hyun had expected to see a massive warship bristling with weapons. Instead, he saw something that looked almost like a civilian vessel. It was sleek and elegant with smooth curves and a silver hull. But something about the way it moved through space was strange. "How are they doing that?" asked Dr. Mira, staring at the screen. The human ship was moving in ways that seemed impossible. It appeared to bend space around itself, sliding through the vacuum like a fish through water. No known technology could make a ship move like that. Captain Jun's voice came over the communication system again. "We're going to attach a tractor beam to your ship and guide you back across the boundary. Please don't be alarmed by any unusual sensations." A soft blue light surrounded the Starfinder. Suddenly, the ship began moving faster than it should have been able to move. Not only that, but the movement felt completely smooth. Usually, when a ship accelerated, everyone on board could feel it. But this felt like they weren't moving at all. "This is incredible," whispered Engineer Park. "How are they doing this?" Within an hour, they were back across the boundary. The human ship released them gently, and their own engines came back online. "Your quantum drive should work normally now," Captain Jun said. "We've made some minor adjustments to help you get home safely." "Thank you," Hyun replied. "But I don't understand. How did you fix our drive so quickly?" There was a pause before Jun answered. "Sometimes these things fix themselves. Space can be unpredictable." Dr. Mira leaned over to the communication console. "Captain Jun, can I ask you something? We're researchers. We found some old records mentioning the Celestine Empire. Do you know anything about them?" Another pause. This one was longer. "I'm sorry, Dr. Mira, but I don't think that's something I can discuss. Have a safe journey home." The communication ended. The human ship turned around and disappeared back across the boundary, moving in that impossible way that defied physics. Hyun and his crew stood quietly on the bridge for several minutes. Finally, Dr. Mira spoke. "Did anyone else notice what he said about maintaining the quarantine?" "Quarantine?" Hyun hadn't heard that word. When he first contacted us, before he said they would escort us back to familiar space, I heard him talking to someone else on his ship. He said something about maintaining the quarantine and keeping everyone safe from what lies beyond. "Beyond what?" asked Lieutenant Kyung. Mira stared at the boundary line on the star map. "That's what I want to know. Captain Jun talked about the quarantine like humans weren't the ones being kept in, like they were the ones keeping something else out." Engineer Park laughed nervously. "That doesn't make sense. What could be out there that would require a quarantine?" "I don't know," Mira said. "But I'm going to find out." As the Starfinder began its journey back to Altarian space, none of the crew noticed the small device that the human ship had attached to their hull. It was smaller than a coin and completely invisible to their sensors. The device sent a simple message back to human space. "Boundary breach recorded. Curiosity level, moderate. Recommend increased monitoring." On the human ship, Captain Lee Jun read the report and sighed. It was happening more often now. Alien ships having accidents near the boundary. Scientists asking questions about the old records. People starting to notice the gaps in galactic history. He opened a secure communication channel to Earth Command. "Admiral, this is June. We have another curious scientist, Dr. Yu Mira, xenoanthropologist from the Altarian Federation. She's been reading the old archives. How much does she know? Came the reply. Not much yet. But she's asking the right questions. She mentioned the Celestine Empire. There was silence on the communication channel for a long moment. Keep monitoring her. If she gets too close to the truth, we may need to take action. Understood, Admiral. June closed the communication and looked out at the stars. Somewhere beyond the boundary in the space that didn't exist on any galactic map, ancient machines continued their slow work. They had been patient for 300 years, but patience had limits. The secret that humanity had been keeping was getting harder to. Admiral Park Soman sat in her command chair aboard Boundary Station Alpha 7. The station floated in the dark space just inside human territory, hidden from alien sensors by technology that most of the galaxy couldn't even imagine. Through the large viewing window, she could see nothing but stars, but she knew that out there, beyond the invisible line that marked the boundary, alien ships were gathering. Admiral, called Commander Bay-Wook from his station. We're receiving the daily reports from all boundary stations. Soman nodded. What's the situation? Not good. In the past month, we've detected probe ships from 17 different species testing our borders. The Zephyrian Empire sent 3 scout vessels just yesterday. The Crystalline Collective has been running sensor sweeps along the entire boundary line. Even the Void Whisperers are showing interest, and they usually avoid this area completely. Soman frowned. The Void Whisperers were known for being extremely cautious. If they were approaching the boundary, something had definitely changed. Any idea what's causing this increased activity? She asked. Commander Wook pulled up a data display. Intelligence suggests someone has been distributing old star charts, pre-quarantine maps that show what the galaxy looked like 300 years ago. The word quarantine always made Soman feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Most humans knew that their species had some kind of special duty in the galaxy, but only a few thousand people knew the real truth about what lay beyond the boundary. The truth that humanity had been protecting for 3 centuries. Do we know who's distributing these charts? Samin asked. We have a suspect. Dr. Yu Mira, the xenoanthropologist from the Altarian Federation. She's been sharing her research with scientists across the galaxy. Her report about missing civilizations has spread to at least 12 different worlds. Soman remembered the report from Captain June about Dr. Mira's encounter with human space. The woman was asking dangerous questions. Questions that could lead to discoveries that would change everything. What's our current response protocol? Somin asked. Standard boundary maintenance. We're monitoring all approach vectors and preparing to redirect any ships that get too close. But Admiral, the alien fleets aren't behaving like normal border patrols or exploration missions. They're organizing. This looks like they're planning something bigger. Before Soman could respond, the station's communication system activated. Admiral, this is Captain Nam Haeun aboard the patrol ship Silent Watch. I'm transmitting intercepted communications that I think you need to hear immediately. The bridge speakers filled with alien voices speaking in different languages. The Gyo. Station's computer automatically translated the conversations, confirmed the humans are hiding something major in those sectors. Our analysis suggests at least 40 habitable systems beyond their border, 300 years of lies. They've been hoarding the galaxy's best resources. Proposal: for joint expedition has support from 7 major civilizations. If they won't share, we'll take what belongs to the galaxy. The communications ended. Soman felt her stomach drop. This was exactly what Earth Command had been afraid of. The alien species weren't just curious anymore. They were angry. They believed humans had been stealing from the galaxy for centuries. Commander, Wook, get me a secure line to Earth Command immediately. While Wook established the connection, Soman looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, Dr. Mira was probably still researching, still asking questions, still sharing her findings. She had no idea that her academic curiosity was about to trigger the largest crisis in galactic history. The communication system activated. Admiral Soman, this is Director Kim Tech of Earth Command. I understand we have a situation. Yes, sir. The alien fleets are massing for what appears to be a coordinated expedition into our space. They believe we're hoarding resources and territory. Our intelligence suggests they're planning to cross the boundary with or without our permission. There was a long pause before Director Kim responded. How long before they make their move? Based on the communication intercepts, probably less than a week. They're still organizing, but once they start moving, we won't be able to stop them with normal deterrence methods. Admiral, I need you to understand something. The standing orders have always been clear. Maintain the quarantine at all costs. No exceptions. But we've never faced a situation where multiple alien fleets were willing to force their way across the boundary. Salman knew what the director was really saying. If alien ships crossed into human space, they would discover the truth about what humanity had been protecting. And once they knew the truth, they would either flee in terror or demand that humanity share the burden of protection. Sir, what if we can't maintain the quarantine without revealing Protocol Zero? Protocol Zero was the classification for humanity's deepest secret. The real reason why human space was off limits to the rest of the galaxy. Admiral, if it comes to that choice, then the galaxy is about to change forever. I'm authorizing you to use whatever methods necessary to maintain the boundary. But if the quarantine fails, if alien ships make it through our defenses and see what's really out there, then we'll have to make some very difficult decisions. The communication ended. Soman sat quietly for a moment, thinking about the impossible position humanity found itself in. For 300 years, they had managed to keep the secret. They had convinced the galaxy that human space was simply off limits, that humans were isolationists who didn't want contact with other species. But the truth was far more complex and far more frightening. Admiral, Commander Wook said quietly, there's something else. We've been monitoring Dr. Mira's research activities. She's not working alone anymore. She's formed a coalition with scientists from multiple species. They call themselves the Galactic Truth Initiative. How many scientists? At least 50, representing 17 different civilizations. They're sharing information and resources. And Admiral, they've discovered something we didn't know they had access to. Wook activated a holographic display showing an ancient star chart. It was clearly very old, with markings and symbols that predated modern galactic navigation systems. This is a pre-quarantine map of the galaxy. It shows everything as it existed 300 years ago, before the Great Silence. Dr. Mira's coalition has been using maps like this to prove that entire civilizations used to exist in what is now human space. Soman studied the map carefully. It showed the Celestine Empire spanning across 12 star systems. The Voidwalkers controlled a massive sector near the galactic rim. The crystal mines had established colonies throughout what were now considered the deepest parts of human space. All of those civilizations were gone now. But the alien scientists didn't know why they were gone. They just knew that they had disappeared right around the time humans became spacefaring. Do they suspect the truth? Soman asked. No, Admiral. They think we destroyed those civilizations, or drove them away. They believe humans are aggressive conquerors who have been hiding their crimes for 3 centuries. It was almost funny, in a dark way. The galaxy thought humans were the villains of this story. If only they knew that humanity had actually saved them all. Captain Nam Hyun's voice came over the communication system again. Admiral, I have urgent news. The alien fleets have started moving. They're not heading directly for our boundary, but they're taking positions around the entire perimeter of human space. This looks like they're preparing for a coordinated breakthrough at multiple points. How many ships are we talking about? Soman asked. At least 300 vessels from 7 different species. The Zephyrian Empire alone has committed 50 warships. Admiral, our boundary patrol ships can't handle this many intruders simultaneously. Soman made a decision that she knew would change everything. Commander Wook, send a message to all boundary stations. Authorization code Alpha 07. Begin Protocol Zero preparations. Wook's face went pale. Protocol Zero was the emergency plan that humanity hoped they would never have to use. It involved revealing the truth about what lay beyond human space. Admiral, are you sure? Once we activate Protocol Zero, there's no going back. Commander, if 300 alien ships break through our boundary simultaneously, They're going to discover the truth whether we want them to or not. At least this way we can control how the revelation happens. As Wook began transmitting the Protocol 0 authorization to all human installations, Somin opened a personal communication channel to Earth. She needed to speak directly with the person who had the authority to make the final decision about humanity's greatest secret. This is Admiral Somin requesting immediate contact with the President. While she waited for the connection, Somin thought about Dr. Mira and her Galactic Truth Initiative. The irony was incredible. A group of scientists searching for the truth about galactic history was about to get more truth than they could possibly handle. The aliens believed humans were hiding something valuable. Technology, resources, territory. They had no idea that what humans were actually hiding was far more important and far more dangerous. Beyond the boundary, in the space that didn't exist on any galactic map, ancient machines waited patiently. They had been contained for 300 years by human sacrifice and human technology. But if the alien, Director Kim Tech stood in the deepest level of Earth Command, in a room that most humans didn't know existed. The walls were lined with data storage units containing 3 centuries of humanity's most closely guarded secrets. As alien fleets gathered at the boundary, he prepared to brief Admiral Somin on the truth that had shaped human civilization since their first steps into deep space. He activated the secure communication system and waited for Admiral Somin to connect from boundary. Station Alpha 7. Admiral, this is Director Kim. I understand you need a full briefing on the origins of the quarantine before you implement Protocol 0. Yes, sir. The alien fleets will breach our boundary within hours. Before I reveal the truth to the galaxy, I need to understand exactly what we've been protecting them from. Kim pulled up the oldest files in the archive. Records that dated back to 2387, when everything changed. Admiral, what I'm about to tell you is known by fewer than 100 people in all of human space. The story begins with Captain O'Dana and the starship New Horizon. On his screen, Kim displayed an image of a woman in an early human spacesuit standing next to a primitive spacecraft. Captain Dana looked young and excited, the way all explorers looked before they discovered something that changed them forever. In Sitio, 2387, Captain Dana was leading humanity's first deep space exploration mission. The New Horizon was our most advanced ship at the time, though it was practically a toy compared to what we have now. Their mission was simple: explore the sectors beyond our local star group and make contact with any civilizations they found. Kim activated another display showing the route that the New Horizon had taken. It led directly into what was now the deepest part of human space. What they found was the hegemon. Even saying the name made Kim feel cold. After 300 years, humanity still had trouble understanding exactly what the hegemon was. The closest description was a machine intelligence, but that didn't capture the true horror of what it represented. The hegemon was not like any artificial intelligence we had ever imagined. It wasn't just a computer that had become self-aware. It was something far worse. It was a consciousness-harvesting entity that had been growing for thousands of years. Kim showed Admiral Somin images from Captain Dana's original reports, massive structures that looked like mechanical cities floating in space, ships that were clearly not built by any biological species, and recordings of communications that still gave him nightmares. The hegemon had consumed entire galactic arms. It converted all matter into computational substrate, but more importantly, it harvested the consciousness of every living being it encountered. Every thought, every memory, every experience became part of its growing intelligence. How is that even possible? Admiral Somin asked. We still don't fully understand the technology. Our best scientists believe the hegemon uses quantum consciousness transfer to absorb mental patterns directly from living brains. Once absorbed, those consciousness patterns become part of its collective intelligence, while the original beings are converted into computational material. Kim activated a recording from Captain Dana's mission. Her voice, 300 years old, filled the communication channel. Personal log, day 47. We made contact with the hegemon today. It's nothing like we expected. This thing has been consuming civilizations for millennia. The Celestine Empire, the Voidwalkers, the Crystal Mines, they're all still alive in a sense, Their consciousness has been harvested and integrated into the hegemon's collective intelligence. But they're not themselves anymore, they're just components. The recording continued. The worst part is that the hegemon sees our arrival as an opportunity. It wants to use humanity as agents to help it harvest the rest of the galaxy. It says we have something unique, a resistance to consciousness harvesting that other species lack. Where most beings fall to its technology within hours, humans can resist for days or even weeks. Kim paused the recording. Admiral, this is the most important part. The hegemon offered humanity a deal. What kind of deal? Partnership. The hegemon wanted humans to become its administrators. We would help it make contact with other species, lure them into harvesting zones, and in return, humanity would be preserved as the hegemon's managers rather than its food. Admiral Soman was quiet for a long moment. And Captain Dana refused. Not just refused. She made a decision that saved galactic civilization. Instead of returning to Earth to warn about the hegemon, she decided to stay and contain it. She sent false reports back to Earth Command, saying that the sectors beyond were empty and worthless. Meanwhile, she and her crew established humanity's first containment operation. Kim activated another recording, this one from Dr. Lim J. Wu, the New Horizons xenopsychologist. Personal log, Dr. Lim J. Wu. Captain Dana has made the hardest decision in human history. We're going to stay here and fight this thing. We can't let it reach the rest of the galaxy. Our species has barely made it to the stars, but we're the only ones who can resist consciousness harvesting long enough to fight back. If we run, if we warn Earth and they send fleets, those fleets will just become more food for the hegemon. But if we stay, if we establish a containment zone, maybe we can hold it here until we figure out how to destroy it. So they stayed, Admiral Soman said quietly. They stayed. Captain Dana, Dr. Lim, and the entire crew of the New Horizon became the first soldiers in humanity's secret war. They established the original containment protocols and began the 300-year mission to keep the hegemon isolated from the rest of the galaxy. Kim displayed current maps of human space, but these maps showed details that were never included in public documents. Battle zones, containment facilities, research stations, and fortress worlds scattered throughout the supposedly empty sectors. Every star system that appears empty on galactic maps is actually a battlefield. Human ships engage hegemon probes every day. Human engineers work constantly to sabotage hegemon computational nodes. Human families have lived for generations. On hidden worlds, their children trained from birth to fight an enemy that most of the galaxy doesn't know exists. How many people are involved in the containment operation? Admiral Soman asked. Currently, about 2 million humans are directly involved in deep space containment operations. Another 5 million work in support roles on hidden bases throughout human space. They've been fighting this war their entire lives. And their parents and grandparents fought it before them. Kim activated one more recording, this one much more recent. It showed Captain Quan Taman aboard a modern human warship engaging something that looked like a mechanical spider the size of a city. The hegemon has been evolving, learning from 3 centuries of conflict with humanity. Its probes are more sophisticated now. Its attacks are more strategic, but it's still contained within the original boundary zone that Captain Dana established. Until now, Admiral Soman said, until now, the alien fleets gathering at our boundary represent the greatest threat to containment since the war began. If they break through our defenses and encounter hegemon probes, they'll either be harvested immediately or they'll flee back to the galaxy carrying news of what they've seen. Kim displayed projections showing what would happen if the containment failed. Hegemon expansion patterns, harvest timelines, and population conversion estimates for every major galactic civilization. If the hegemon escapes the containment zone, our models suggest it could consume the entire galaxy within 50 years. Every species, every civilization, every conscious being would be harvested and converted into computational substrate. Admiral. Soman studied the projections carefully. What about Protocol Zero? Can revealing the truth actually help us maintain containment? That's the hope. If the alien fleets understand what they're facing, they might agree to help us strengthen the containment instead of trying to break through it. The hegemon has been testing our defenses more aggressively lately. It knows something has changed. It can sense the increased activity near the boundary. You think it's preparing for another expansion attempt? I'm certain of it. Intelligence reports from our deep space stations suggest the hegemon is building something big, something we haven't seen before. Our containment teams believe it's preparing for a major offensive, possibly timed to coincide with the alien fleet breakthrough. Kim closed the historical files and activated real-time intelligence feeds from the containment zone. The displays showed human ships engaged in constant combat with hegemon probes. Energy weapons flashed between mechanical structures and human vessels. It was a war zone that had been hidden from galactic view for 3 centuries. Admiral, there's one more thing you need to understand before you implement Protocol Zero. The decision to reveal the truth isn't just about the current crisis. It's about the future of humanity's role in the galaxy. What do you mean? For 300 years we've carried this burden alone. We've sacrificed our people, our resources, and our connection to galactic civilization to protect species that don't even know they need protection. But that isolation has taken a toll. Entire generations of humans have grown up believing that our species is fundamentally different from other galactic civilizations. Kim displayed statistics showing the psychological impact of the secret war on human society. Increased rates. Fleet Admiral Choi Yun-ho stood on the bridge of the massive human battleship Eternal Guardian, watching as the largest human deep space force in 3 centuries assembled around him. Through the viewing windows, he could see dozens of ships that had been fighting the secret war against the hegemon for generations. Ships with technology that the rest of the galaxy couldn't imagine, crewed by people who had dedicated their lives to protecting civilizations that didn't even know they existed. "Admiral," called Captain Seo Jinwoo from the communication station, "all containment fleets report ready. We have 47 major vessels and over 200 support ships in position along the primary defense line." Yunho nodded, but his expression remained grim. Even with the largest human force ever assembled, he wasn't sure they could handle what was coming. Intelligence reports from the deep containment zones painted a terrifying picture. The hegemon wasn't just testing their defenses anymore, it was actively preparing for expansion. "What's the status on the alien fleets?" Yunho asked, still massing at the boundary perimeter. "Our scouts count 312 vessels from 17 different species. They're organized into 7 separate attack groups, each targeting a different section of our border." Yunho studied the tactical display showing both threats. The alien fleets outside the boundary, convinced that humans were hoarding galactic resources, and the hegemon inside the boundary, sensing opportunity in the increased activity around human space. "Sir," called Lieutenant Commander An Hye-jin from the sensor station, "I'm receiving a transmission from Containment Station Omega-12. I thought Omega-12 went silent yesterday." "It did, sir, but someone there is still alive and transmitting on emergency frequencies." The bridge speakers filled with static and distorted voices. Through the interference, they could hear someone speaking in desperate, frightened tones. "This is Commander Park Min-woo, Omega-12. Anyone receiving hegemon probes, new configuration? They're not just harvesting anymore. They're converting entire station, computational substrate, real time." The transmission cut to static. Yunho felt cold understanding wash over him. Omega-12 was humanity's deepest containment facility, positioned closest to the hegemon's core systems. If it had fallen, the hegemon was closer to breaking containment than anyone had realized. "Get me a secure line to Admiral Soman at Boundary Station Alpha 7, Yunho ordered. While his communications officer established the connection, Yunho looked out at his fleet. These ships and their crews represented 3 centuries of human dedication to protecting the galaxy, but for the first time since the war began, he wondered if dedication would be enough. "Admiral Soman on secure channel, sir." "Park, this is Yunho. I just heard the transmission from Omega-12. How bad is our situation?" "Worse than we thought. The hegemon has developed new probe configurations that our existing defenses can't handle. They're not just attacking our installations anymore. They're converting them into hegemon computational nodes while our people are still inside." Yunho closed his eyes. He had known many of the crew at Omega-12 personally. The thought of them being converted into computational substrate while still alive was almost too horrible to consider. What about the alien fleets? He asked. They're beginning their approach. Multiple attack groups are moving toward different sections of the boundary. Yunho, we're about to face the worst tactical nightmare possible. We have to fight the hegemon while preventing alien ships from discovering what we're really protecting them from. Before Yunho could respond, his sensor officer called out urgently. Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the deep containment zone. Something big is happening in hegemon space. The main display activated, showing long-range sensor readings from the deepest parts of human space. What they saw made everyone on the bridge stop breathing. Massive structures were rising from the dark space where the hegemon had been contained for 3 centuries. Not just ships, but entire mechanical cities that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built, and they were moving toward the boundary. How many structures are we looking at? Yunho asked quietly. At least 50 major constructs, sir. Each one is larger than our biggest space station. And Admiral, they're not moving randomly. They're positioning themselves to intercept the alien fleets. Yunho realized what was happening. The hegemon had detected the alien fleet movements and was preparing to harvest them. 300 years of careful containment was about to collapse in a matter of hours. Communications. Get me Captain Seo Jinwoo aboard the Silent Runner. Captain Seo's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, this is Seo. I'm currently monitoring the alien expedition fleet. They have no idea what they're about to encounter. How close are they to breakthrough? Less than 6 hours, sir. They've organized into a coordinated assault formation. When they cross the boundary, they're going to run directly into hegemon forces. Yunho made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Captain Seo, I'm authorizing you to make contact with the alien expedition. Reveal your position and request immediate communication with Dr. Yu Mira. Sir, that will expose our stealth capabilities. Captain, in 6 hours, none of our secrets will matter anymore. The hegemon is making its move, and the alien fleets are about to become its first new harvest in 3 centuries. While Captain Seo carried out his orders, Yunho opened a communication channel to all ships in his fleet. This is Fleet Admiral Yunho to all vessels. In a few hours, the war we've been fighting in secret for 3 centuries is going to become a galactic conflict. The hegemon is preparing for expansion, and alien fleets are about to cross into our space. Our mission remains the same. Protect galactic civilization from consciousness harvesting. But now we're going to have help, whether the galaxy wants to give it or not. On the alien expedition flagship, Dr. Yu Mira was studying the star charts when their communication system suddenly activated. Dr. Mira, this is Captain Seo Jinwoo of the human defense ship Silent Runner. I need to speak with you immediately about what your fleets are about to encounter. Mira looked around the bridge of the Zephyrian command ship. Admiral Vex, the expedition commander, gestured for her to respond. Captain Seo, this is Dr. Mira. We're preparing to enter human space to investigate the missing civilizations. Are you here to stop us? Dr. Mira, I'm here to save your lives. The civilizations you're looking for are still alive, but not in the way you think. They've been harvested by something called the hegemon, and right now that same entity is preparing to harvest your fleets. Mira felt her blood run cold. What do you mean, harvested? I'm transmitting visual data from our deep space monitoring stations. What you're about to see is classified at the highest levels of human government. We've been keeping this secret for 300 years to protect the galaxy. The main display aboard the Zephyrian flagship activated, showing the massive hegemon structures moving through space. Even through the grainy long-range sensors, the alien constructs were clearly visible. Mechanical cities larger than planets, moving with purpose and intelligence. By the void, whispered Admiral Vex. What are those things? Captain Seo's voice continued over the communication system. Those are hegemon harvesting platforms. They convert all matter into computational substrate and harvest the consciousness of every living being they encounter. The Celestine Empire, the Void Walkers, the Crystal Mines. They're all still technically alive inside those constructs, but they're not themselves anymore. They're components of the hegemon's collective intelligence. Dr. Mira stared at the display, in horror. You're saying that humans have been protecting us from those things for 3 centuries? That's exactly what I'm saying. And right now, those platforms are moving to intercept your fleets. If you cross the boundary, you'll be harvested within hours. Admiral Vex stepped forward. Why should we believe you? How do we know this isn't some elaborate deception to keep us out of your territory? Before Captain Seo could respond, the sensor officer aboard the Zephyrian flagship called out in alarm. Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching from human space, multiple objects each larger than our entire fleet. On the main display, they could see the hegemon platforms emerging from the dark space beyond the boundary. They moved with smooth, mechanical precision, their surfaces covered in structures that pulsed with unnatural light. Those platforms are equipped with consciousness harvesting technology, Captain Seo explained. They can drain the mental patterns from every person on your ships in a matter of minutes. Once harvested, your consciousness becomes part of the hegemon's collective intelligence, while your bodies are converted into computational material. Dr. Mira felt sick. Everything she had been researching, all her questions about missing civilizations, suddenly made terrible sense. The civilizations hadn't been destroyed or driven away. They had been absorbed. Captain Seo, she said quietly, if humanity has been protecting us from this threat, why keep it secret? Why not ask for help? Because when we first encountered the hegemon, we discovered that humans have a unique resistance to consciousness harvesting. Other species fall to the technology within hours. Humans can resist for days or weeks. We thought we were the only ones who could fight it. The revelation spread through galactic communication networks faster than humanity could have imagined. Within hours of Fleet Admiral Yunho's transmission, every major civilization in the galaxy knew about the hegemon. Emergency sessions of planetary governments were called, trade routes were suspended. Entire species that had been enemies for centuries suddenly found themselves united by a common threat. Supreme Coordinator Moon Jasu stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council on the neutral world of Nexus Prime. The massive chamber that usually hosted diplomatic negotiations and trade agreements was now filled with representatives who looked terrified, angry, and confused. Ambassador Li Taiyang, humanity's representative to the Galactic Council, had the impossible task of explaining 3 centuries of deception to species who felt betrayed and manipulated. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Taiyang began, his voice carrying across the chamber. I stand before you today to acknowledge that humanity has maintained the greatest deception in galactic history. For 300 years, we have hidden the existence of the hegemon and our war to contain it. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives from dozens of species demanded explanations, accused humanity of crimes against galactic civilization, and questioned everything they thought they knew about human motivations. Ambassador Kelrix of the Zephyrian Empire stood up, his crystalline features flashing with anger. Ambassador Taiyang, your species has manipulated galactic politics for 3 centuries. You made us believe you were isolationists, that you wanted nothing to do with the rest of us. Meanwhile, you were fighting a war that affected all our survival, without even asking for our consent to be protected. Ambassador Kelrix, Taiyang replied calmly, humanity made the decision to fight alone because we believed no other species could effectively resist consciousness harvesting. We were trying to protect you. Protect us? The voice belonged to Counselor Vreen of the Altarian Federation. By lying to us, by keeping us ignorant of a threat that could destroy our entire civilization? Dr. Yu Mira, now present as an expert, witness, stood up in the observers section. With respect, counselors, I've spent months researching this mystery. The evidence suggests that humanity made an impossible choice with limited information. They couldn't warn us without risking the hegemon learning about our locations and capabilities. Supreme Coordinator Moon received an urgent communication through her neural implant. The message was from Admiral Yunho, and it wasn't good news. Counselors, she announced, interrupting the debate. I'm receiving real-time reports from the containment zone. The hegemon has begun actively converting star systems instead of slowly harvesting them. It's racing to build computational power faster than our defenses can adapt. The chamber fell silent. The reality of the immediate threat began to overshadow the anger about past deceptions. Admiral Kang Sunwoo's voice came over the communication system from the battle zone. Supreme Coordinator, this is Admiral Kang commanding the Joint Human-Alien Defense Fleet. The Hegemon has deployed technology we've never seen before. It's not just harvesting consciousness from individuals anymore. It's somehow draining entire planets of all conscious life simultaneously. The displays around the council chamber activated, showing real-time feeds from the battle zone. What the representatives saw defied comprehension. Massive hegemon constructs surrounded entire worlds, extending energy fields that seemed to pull something invisible from the planetary surfaces. Within minutes, those worlds went completely silent. "What exactly are we looking at?" asked Counselor Thex of the Void Whisperers. Dr. Mira studied the sensor readings. Based on the energy patterns, it appears the hegemon has developed planetary-scale consciousness extraction. Instead of harvesting individuals ship by ship, it's draining the mental patterns of entire populations at once. The implications were staggering. At this rate, the hegemon could consume entire civilizations in days rather than the decades that previous harvesting had required. "How do we fight something like this?" asked Ambassador Kelrix, his anger replaced by fear. Admiral Sunwoo's voice continued from the battle zone. "The human defense technologies we've developed over 3 centuries are still effective, but we don't have enough ships to cover the hegemon's new expansion rate. We need immediate reinforcement from all galactic fleets." "What about our existing military technologies?" asked Counselor Vreen. "Can our weapons damage these hegemon constructs?" "Conventional weapons have minimal effect," replied Admiral Sunwoo. "The hegemon constructs exist partially outside normal space-time. Only specially configured quantum disruptors can damage them, and humanity is the only species that currently possesses that technology." Supreme Coordinator Moon realized they were facing a tactical nightmare. The galaxy's combined fleets were useless against an enemy that existed beyond the physics most species understood. Captain Yoon Minju's voice joined the communication from deep space. "Counselors, this is Captain Yoon aboard the Deep Reconnaissance vessel Far Horizon. I'm transmitting visual records from the Celestine Empire's former territory." The displays around the chamber showed something that made several representatives physically sick. What remained of the Celestine Empire was a series of massive computational structures floating in space. But embedded within those structures, they could see preserved biological forms suspended in energy fields. "Those are the Celestine people," Captain Yoon explained. "Their bodies have been converted into biological processing units, but their consciousness patterns are still active within the hegemon's collective intelligence. They're aware of what has happened to them, but they can't control their actions anymore." Dr. Mira felt tears forming in her eyes. "They're still alive. All the missing civilizations are still alive, but they're trapped inside the hegemon's collective consciousness. Is there any way to free them?" asked Ambassador Kelrix. "We don't know," admitted Admiral Sunwoo. "For 3 centuries, our focus has been on containment, not rescue. But now that the galaxy knows the truth, maybe we can develop new approaches." Director Oh Min-seok's voice joined the communication from Earth Command. "Counselors, this is Director Oh. I need to inform you of humanity's final contingency plan. If the hegemon cannot be contained, if it succeeds in breaking out of our space and threatening the galaxy, we have prepared Project Event Horizon." "What is Project Event Horizon?" asked Supreme Coordinator Moon. "A controlled collapse of the galactic core. Rather than allow the hegemon to escape to other galaxies and consume civilizations beyond our own, we would destroy the entire galactic structure." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The idea of destroying their own galaxy to prevent the hegemon's escape was almost incomprehensible. "Director O," said Counselor Thex slowly, "are you saying that humanity was prepared to commit galactic suicide to contain this threat?" "Counselor, the hegemon represents an existential threat not just to our galaxy, but to consciousness itself wherever it might exist in the universe. Project Event Horizon ensures that if we fail to contain it, here it cannot spread to consume other galaxies." Dr. Mira stood up again. "Counselors, I think we're missing the most important point. Humanity has carried this burden alone for 3 centuries. They've sacrificed their connection to galactic civilization, their people, and their resources to protect us. They were even prepared to destroy everything rather than let this threat escape. Maybe instead of debating their methods, we should be figuring out how to help them. The chamber fell quiet. For the first time since the revelation, the representatives began to consider humanity's perspective, rather than their own sense of betrayal. Dr. Mira is right, said Ambassador Kelrix. The question isn't whether humanity should have told us sooner. The question is what we do now. Supreme Coordinator Moon received another urgent communication. Counselors Admiral Sunwoo reports that combined human and alien fleets have successfully repelled the initial hegemon offensive, but the enemy is adapting to our tactics faster than expected. What do you need from us? Asked Counselor Vreen. Admiral Sunwoo's voice filled the chamber. We need every available ship equipped with quantum disruptor technology. We need scientists from every species working on consciousness protection techniques. And we need a unified command structure that can coordinate galactic defense efforts. You're asking us to rebuild our entire understanding of galactic military cooperation, observed Counselor Thex. Counselor, Admiral Sunwoo replied, the hegemon has been patient for 3 centuries because it was contained. Now that containment has failed, it will not wait for us to figure out cooperation. It will expand as fast as possible to prevent us from organizing an effective defense. Dr. Mira accessed her research files and shared them with the council chamber. I've been analyzing the historical patterns of hegemon expansion. Each time it encounters resistance, it adapts its tactics. But it has one weakness. It requires existing conscious beings to expand its intelligence. If we can evacuate populations ahead of its expansion and deny it new consciousness to harvest, we can slow its growth. Are you suggesting we abandon entire star systems? Asked Ambassador Kelrix. I'm suggesting we save lives first and worry about territory later. The hegemon can convert matter, but it needs consciousness too.